Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Uncensored Critic podcast. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. It means a lot to me. Thank you very, very, very much indeed, as always. And today, it gives me fantastic pleasure to welcome along Lucy Hind. And let's take a moment to introduce Lucy and her work. So, Lucy is a movement director, choreographer, and intimacy director. Her credits include for screen as a movement and choreographer and intimacy, all kind of combined together. Banana for E4, Truth Seekers for Amazon, The Nutcracker, The Snow Queen, Thumbelina and Peter Pan for BBC, and Intimacy, Criminal Record Series 2, and STV Studios for Apple Plus. And for theatre, she's done so much work. It's just insane. So this is just a little sample of the work that she's done again, a movement choreographer and intimacy director. She was the workshop leader for the London 2012 Paralympic opening games, Wind in the Willows for the West Yorkshire Playhouse, Twelfth Night at the Sheffield Theatres, The Effect Sheffield Theatres as well, Nose Knife for the Old Vic, Ugly Lies the Bone at the National Theatre, Girl from the North Country at the Old Vic, Noel Coward Theatre and Public Theatre Off-Broadway in New York, Billy Elliot at the Curve in Leicester, Machinal at the Old Vic starring Rosie Sheehy, who's also been on here as well, Waiting for Godot at the Theatre Royal Haymarket starring Tom Eden, who's also been here as well, Fear of 13 at the Donmar starring a certain Adrian Brody, directed by the brilliant Justin Martin, who's also been on here as well, Christmas Day at the Almeida, Road at the Royal Exchange, and most recently Inter Alia at the National and Wyndham's Theatre, and has just announced their Broadway transfer, also directed by Justin Martin himself. And that's a small sample of Lucy's works, and we welcome her along today. Hello, Lucy.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. How are you?
I'm really well, thanks. It's always very strange to have your CV read out before you talk. But yeah, it's nice to remember all of that.
Yeah, no, it's all you. It's all you and all your work. I mean, honestly, we could be here all day talking about all the theatre you've done, but we've got specific areas we'll go into. So we start at the beginning. So in your case, Lucy, where did it come from? The love of movement, choreography, intimacy directing, being in this business, where did it come from?
Well, I trained in South Africa. I'm South African born, and I went to Rhodes University, which are really well known for their theatre and drama departments, kind of in the Eastern Cape in South Africa. It's where the
Hmm.
big Grahamstown Arts Festival is, which is a bit like our Edinburgh. I'm suddenly very South African. I can hear in my accent. It's like I've dropped into my South African.
It's your
Um,
roots, mate. It's your roots.
yeah, exactly. I also did a clinical psychology degree,
Mhm.
which interestingly at the time, I think my parents were like, well, you need a backup, right? Because if it doesn't work out, because what most parents say to their kids wanting to go into the arts. And it has been incredibly useful to me. While I'm not a practicing psychologist, I do feel like the basics of understanding that has come back multiple times over in my theatre degree and in my theatre work and TV work, and then especially in my intimacy work as well now, more recently. I did physical theatre and mime and choreography. The interesting thing about South Africa is we've got 11 official languages. So much of our work is based in the body to be accessible. We also come from a long tradition of physical work as opposed to spoken work. And therefore, the groundwork for most theatre training in South Africa is in the body. And I do feel like I had this incredibly well-rounded education. We did Lecoq mime training. We did kind of deviate inspired physical theatre and ensemble work, huge ensemble work, come from a devising background. And that kind of set me up. I really wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to be a contemporary dancer. I spent a year dancing around South Africa whilst finishing my honours degree, and was like, I'm going to be a contemporary dancer. And I came to England when I was 21. My parents were here and they'd moved before me. I went to university when I was 17, actually. So they'd moved a couple of years later. And I came to England and I was like, I'm going to be a contemporary dancer. And I started going to auditions. And quickly realized that I just was not built for auditions. I just don't have the temperament. And also I went from being, top, it's the classic saying, isn't it? Like big fish in a small pond. And then you come to London and you realize that actually most people are better than me.
Yeah, this
And
is
that was,
it's brutal.
it,
It can be
it
brutal.
was, yeah, It was really brutal, really, really brutal. And I was actually living in the north. I lived in Yorkshire for 20 years. I was in Bradford and in Leeds, and I met this incredible collective of artists and was one of the founding members of a theatre company called Slunglow. And there used to be like 30 of us when we started, and we'd share skills, and it was devising, and it was kind of this beautiful, sometimes interactive work, which we then built into community scale work. And we did huge productions with sometimes 200-300 cast members in very many theatres, from the Almeida to the Lowry to Sheffield Crucible. And we had a really, really good time. That was probably 10-15 years of my career was doing that. And then alongside taking other bits of work, in more kind of mainstream regional houses and in London, mostly all movement directing. I wasn't doing a ton of musicals choreography because I didn't train in musicals choreography. I would have loved to have, but I didn't come up that route. So I was in musicals, associate choreographer. And it's funny how even in our industry, even though we're one industry, we're very compartmentalized in terms of how you're seen as an artist and as a creative. And I think I was seen more as a movement director. I got to meet and work with incredible people. I worked with Indu, Ruby Singham, at the Kiln, even before it was the Kiln. And I worked with Daniel Evans at the Crucible and Jonathan Mumby, ETT, and then again at the Crucible, and doing everything from all your classic movement directed work, from scene changes to character studies to body consulting to the physical language, physical landscape of the show, all those kind of like abstract scenes, time passing with little bits of movement if it required, tiny little, gavotte here or a foxtrot there. And I really loved it. And I actually just very quickly forgot about performing. I did have a small period of performing with my long-term dance partner, David Toole, who was the incredible dancer, who's a double amputee, who danced originally in Kajuko and DV8. And we won a commission in 2012 to make a big dance piece for the Unlimited commissioning body, which was part of London 2012, which is a disabled-led project. And we made this epic dance piece in Cape Town, and then it came back to the South Bank and in Birmingham, and then him and I had a two-hander which we toured around the world, which was awesome. But that was really the only bits of performing I did. So that's it. It's sort of like this incredible mishmash of regional community work, Slunglow really driving in terms of understanding the industry. I didn't know anybody when I came here. I didn't know the name of any theatres, the name of any directors. I didn't go to drama school. I didn't have a single connection. I didn't have anything on my CV worth looking at. I hadn't even seen any work here. And I think without Slunglow, I definitely wouldn't have met and embedded myself in the community. And then it just goes along from there. And then intimacy work came about during the pandemic for me. Obviously, we were all kind of taking a step back and looking around us and reevaluating. And I had already been doing intimacy work practically, obviously, in the room, and then started doing bits of studying. And when Girl from the North Country went to Broadway, just before lockdown, I started investigating courses that I could do in America. And I started doing some courses out in New York and in America and online, and kind of built up that work that way. And saying that's kind of come hand in hand. I mostly get asked to come in and do both, which I love, because I think it's hard coming in just doing one day as a consultant, because you have to build that trust very, very quickly. But yeah, I feel like that's a concise.
No. Brilliant. Thank you for that. No, it's interesting about, just quickly, you said the Girl from the North Country went to New York before the pandemic. Did you manage to get a little run together, or was it taken down quite quickly?
I think we had 2 weeks.
2 weeks, and then.
So we managed to open, and we recorded the cast album.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so we managed to just get in there. We tried to come back. I think we had 2 reopenings, and we did the Tonys. And then we just couldn't get back on our feet long term. I think it was such a mess, and only really the ones who were like solid stalwarts of Broadway survived to keeping going through that period. But it was amazing, and I remember being asked on the red carpet as we were going into the theatre at our opening by all the newspapers and magazines. You know, they sort of line up and they ask you all their questions. And so many of them were like, what do you think COVID is going to do to your show? And we'd only just heard of it. And I was like, she was like, we're fine. We'll be fine. It's going to come and go. Literally 2 weeks later, shut down.
Yeah.
It was mad.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, I remember those conversations we had like a few weeks before. We were going, "What's this thing?" And we were just like, "We've had swine flu before, and that was okay.
Fine.
Yeah, be fine." And next thing you know, it was like, "Oh, shit. Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
we're a little bit fucked here." But anyway, we live to tell the tale. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
But just one thing that jumped out there talking about is that's really fascinating. You mentioned your work in South Africa and how the movement is permeates through your whole CV, I think. And of course, I've been lucky enough to interview a real hero of mine on here, Yal Faber, who directed The Crucible and King Lear, and all these kind of amazing shows across the world. And she talked about what you talked about there, which was it's the body which stores the emotion. It's not your brain. You feel like you think things in your brain, but the body is actually the storage facility for everything.
Gorgeous.
Whether you're actually aware of it or not, there's all kinds of things trapped in here. It's not just in your chest, but it's also in your legs, in your feet, your arms, your fingertips. It's everything. It's a full body experience. What was it like discovering a full body experience of theatre?
I think there's this thing that happens when you come in as a movement director, and sometimes you'll get actors who come up to you and go, "I'm not a mover, just to warn you." And that always
Yes,
makes
you
me
are.
laugh because yes, you are. Stu and Leslie, who's been such an amazing mentor to me over the years, he said to me, we move before we speak, which we do. And I also feel like a movement should do the job that words can't. We should never double up. The stories that we can tell in our bodies, the things that we can't say with words. It's the same way you go to an art gallery and you see a piece of art or you hear a piece of music and it moves you to tears or to elation, and you can't always put words into why. I feel like movement does that as well, does the same. And I do feel really lucky that I get to tell those bits of the stories and facilitate and add layers and crack open that inner world that we all are constantly doing and moving all the time, those stories that we are telling and the information that we are interpreting subconsciously all the time. During lockdown as well, I did a bunch of kind of confidence, corporate storytelling and status and body language things, as we all did when we pivoted. And I read all these incredible studies and papers on how we are constantly interpreting information we're receiving from each other in communication, and at least 3/4 of that is nonverbal. And yet we place, in terms of storytelling, we place the script at the center of it, and then everything works around it, which of course we have to have a structure for. But I do love that actually there's just tons of work being done that we are receiving and interpreting as an audience, which is all nonverbal and all in the body. Yeah, it's an immense privilege. I love it. And often actors are much more eloquent physical storytellers than they think they are. And freeing them up and giving them the confidence to lean into that and do that and not think of it as something which they can add, but it is like the basis and it is underneath everything, is such a gift.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, how much of does stillness come into your practice? Because it's almost like people can say 1,000 words by just doing like a little gesture or something, like when they're trying to get someone's attention or something, they'd be like, and it says so much.
Excellent mime.
Yeah, well, thank you. And but what about stillness? Because someone can say, I'm trying to think of like a famous example here now, but I think I've mentioned it on here before. You've seen Silence of the Lambs, right? Yeah, and stillness. Anthony Hopkins there as Hannibal Lecter. He's not doing anything. He's not moving his face. He's not doing any gesture with his hands. He's not giving you an evil look. He's just simply there.
Yeah, terrifying.
Yeah, and people go, yeah, but how is that scary? You've watched the film, and yeah, you feel so much, and he's not doing a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, how much of that do you like exploring as well?
I love stillness. I love stillness, and even in stillness, there's still levels of tension. There's still information that we're receiving from each other, and you know the absence of movement still has meaning.
Mm.
Absolutely. I also believe in. I'm definitely more in terms of movement. Oh, I didn't say it's how I came to musicals. Actually,
Yeah.
was new musicals and Girl from the North Country, and
Hmm.
suddenly there was a much more naturalistic style of musicals, and I was given actors who could sing as opposed to musical trained actors, um, and that was really interesting and really thrilling for me. And I definitely sit in the more naturalistic end of movement, and I love a heightened, stylized moment, absolutely, to take us somewhere different. But stillness definitely fits into my style and my storytelling tools, as a way of being truthful and a way of being present. And I think that's the bits of movement that interest me, when we're very present in our bodies, as opposed to performing something or performing a move that tells a story. I'd rather it feel like it is a present expression as opposed to putting something on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and how did you said earlier about, when actors come into the room and they go, "Oh yeah, just so you know, I don't actually, I don't move. It's
Not a
not,
mover. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can walk and run, but that's about it, really."
Yeah.
But what do you say to those people? Well, actually, yeah. Well, A, what do you say to those people who say, "I don't move, just so you know," and B, how do you get them to move?
So the first thing, obviously, I met with in those moments is understanding why they felt the need to come and tell me that. It's
Mm,
actually not actually about them telling me they can't move. It's the why.
mm,
And there's always something underneath every single one of those interactions. Mostly it's fear. It's always fear of looking silly, a fear of embarrassing themselves, or a fear of not feeling confident enough to deliver a good job. Rehearsal rooms, even though it can be very safe spaces, are also quite exposing.
mm,
And especially early on, I imagine that person is wanting me to know that they are going to require some extra support, or that they are warning me that they don't like to be out of their comfort zone. And I can hold both those things, definitely, and usually reassure them that we are going to focus on what the story needs and what the characters need, and it's going to be truthful, and they have all the skills within them to deliver that, and they don't need to worry. Some of the things I need to get on board is if it's an ensemble piece and you have a very different range of actors from different backgrounds, that often happens as well. If we get into a cast where we have some very physical trained performers, very physically confident performers, and then you have some actors who are not in as confident in their bodies, or presenting themselves as physical performers. Nobody wants to overpromise either. You want to like lower the bar really low, and then they can just surprise us.
yeah, don't
So
expect
it's a
anything from me.
yeah, exactly. And then it's about reminding everybody that we're all in the same space together. So then it's choosing how to hold those rooms, choosing if we do a company warm up, choosing if we play games together as opposed to do yoga and Pilates together, and working out what the room needs and saying to them, look, we're going to do some stuff today that might feel like you've gone back to drama school, or we're going to do some stuff today which might feel a little scary. I want you to just trust that in every one of these moments there's something you can take away, and hopefully, yeah, getting their trust is the biggest part of the job. I really feel that if you are investing in those relationships and being honest about all of our limitations, I'm going to get it wrong sometimes. I'm going to make something that I look at and we work really hard on. Then I go, do you know what? We'll save it for another show. It doesn't work here. And I think that's quite liberating for actors as well. And you don't want your team to feel like you don't know what you're doing. It's an important balance, but to feel like nobody's got the answers, actually. And
Mm.
there is such power and creativity and freedom in that. And then we'll put ourselves on a timeline with an impending audience arrival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's interesting about how you said, I like that phrase there. You said, like, yeah, we'll do something which might take you right back to the drama school days and stuff like that. And firstly, we did yoga and Pilates. I think we were introduced to yoga, I think when I was in year six or something. We just did it in school one day.
Wow.
I don't know what our teacher was thinking that day,
I
but we
love
did it
that.
and we loved it as well. We were
Yeah.
thinking we're going to do yoga today, and we thought, oh, okay, what's this all about? And we did it, and all of us were just like, can we do that again? Can we do it again? Can we do it
Yeah.
again? And it was great. And I don't know if you've done this before, but like, say if you're in the middle of rehearsals or something, and you're working on quite an intense show, like Inter Alia, for example. Is that how you say it, by the way? Is it Inter Alia or Inter Alia?
Uh, Inter alia, I think, is how we mostly say it. But God, there's so many different ways that people say it, even in the rehearsal room. It's one of those
Yeah.
two.
Yeah, it's like prima
Yeah,
facie, prima facie. I don't know. But,
yeah.
yeah, inter alia. Sorry, Susie, if you're listening. I'll stick with inter alia. Why not? So, say if you've worked on something like as intense as that.
Hmm.
I remember this one exercise we did with one of our voice teachers. She said, "Okay, I know you've all been working really, really hard recently. I know you've been really, really up against the clock and everything. So what I'm going to do is ask you, can we shut the curtains? We shut all the curtains, turn all the lights out." And she said, "Okay, all of you just lie on the floor." I went, "Okay," and just lie on the floor. That's all you got to do. We're like, "Okay." And then she just started playing sea waves, the sound of the sea,
Sounds dreamy.
and it was perfect. We
Hmm.
just lay there and just
Yeah,
took 15, I don't know how long it was, say 15, 20 minutes. And
yeah.
there was a guy next to me who fell asleep as well, and which happens a lot, for those
Yeah.
sort of things, which happens a lot.
Yeah.
But so do you encourage that as well? Like if you're in the middle of a busy or quite intense rehearsal period, that you do give the actors like half an hour just to literally just lie on the floor and recharge?
Decompress. I've never done that specific thing before, but I am a firm believer in recognizing the impact that acting has on our nervous systems. So I spoke to Rosamund a lot about on Intalia about how her nervous system doesn't understand that she's not going through that trauma every night,
Mm,
you know, and the exhaustion that can take, and her adrenal system consistently releasing adrenaline every night, whether it's her life as a performer, but also the emotional journey she's putting herself through is requiring your adrenaline system doesn't know that you're faking it or that it's pretend, not that you're faking it, but that it is a that you're acting, and recognizing that's really important. There's loads of ways in which I teach de-rolling. I think it's a really important part, even more so now. And
yeah.
mostly it comes under an intimacy banner, actually. But I feel like those practices were there anyway in movement. Um, the way we did it on Inter Alia is there's a lemon. She catches a lemon in the show.
Yeah.
Jamie Glover, her colleague who plays her husband, throws her this lemon. So after one of the first run throughs we did in the rehearsal room, and it had been such an enormous task, kind of piecing it together for her, the amount that she does on stage. We were reworking the script. It was such a very democratic room, and Justin allows input from so many different places. And we were all kind of a bit strung out. And Jamie also makes cocktails, and he's passionate about cocktails. So we just did this thing where we just stood in a circle and we all just threw the lemon to each other, and we talked about what our favorite cocktails were. And it was such a fun way of reminding ourselves that we're humans, reminding ourselves that we exist as colleagues and outside the space. And that's the one way. Now they still throw the lemon before every performance, just does a little kind of like reset and ritual. And there's lots of other rituals I encourage, whether it's a whole beautiful de-rolling practice. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Is that coming through to you there loudly?
No, 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 no. It's all good.
Oh, okay, good. I'm getting notifications. Um,
You're good.
yeah, yeah. The de-rolling practice, whether it's your own little ritual of how you come off stage and how you let your character go, but and then coming into rehearsals every day with music, what music you play when you leave the room, and then we stretch. I also am a huge advocate of breath work, and I've been training and interested through a very dear friend of mine in South Africa who's a qualified Breathwork Africa practitioner. And she's been Zooming with me from South Africa, teaching me. And I've been putting some of those practices into the room as well. So it's all about nervous system regulation, which is what that lying down for 15 minutes is about. You know, there's that gorgeous stuff on social media about the Hamnet set and
Mm,
how they would put on a track and
yeah.
dance together. And that is one of the most underrated things you can do as a company, whether it's a song you put on at the end of the day when everybody's packing their bags, which everybody bops along to and has a little dance together. We shake as well. Yeah, lots of different ways. The tricky thing is you can have all these practices, but you have to meet the needs of the room. So if you have a room where not everybody's down with that, suddenly you're forcing people to take part in something which actually is not having the desired effect. In fact, they feel like they're being forced into a practice. So it's all like I have such a different set of things that I offer people, because quite often people are from very different places, and sometimes that work can feel very exposing for people, or it makes them feel uncomfortable, or it makes them feel like I don't need that. And other people are like, oh my God, please, yes, 20 minutes yoga at the end of rehearsals would be amazing. So the balance of finding the right thing that matches the room with the time that you've got is tricky.
Yeah, it's all about just finding that balance in the room, and just first of all, I think one thing I've learned in the last couple of years is like you've got to make, thankfully this is a practice which is still fairly new, is making people feel safe in the rehearsal room, and just like checking in with everybody. How are we doing today? You're all good. And mentioned Susie's other play, Prima Facie, which I've talked about at length on here as well. She talked about the everyone who I've interviewed, from Georgia, the stage manager, to most recently Lauren, who was Jodie's latest understudy, was that the sisterhood backstage was just, that's their word, that's what they call it, a sisterhood. Everyone was there for each other. If they had they would do the Hamlet thing, where they would all put on a track in the theatre just way before the show, so they could literally just shake it all out and just have a great time, and so all just checking in with each other. And it's Inter Alia, which we'll get onto in a second, but again, it's an intense experience. It's there's no interval. It's like it's 2 hours straight through, and you're there as soon as the curtain goes up, or as soon as Rosamund comes out with her microphone and you hear the music playing, you're in it for 2 hours straight. And I suppose by the end of it, I see like you guys backstage literally just going and getting all together. Okay, shake it out guys. Okay, that's it, we're done for today. Go home, rest, drink, and then come back fresh tomorrow. And just but what was it like?
You do sit on the edge of your seat. There's so many moments of things that the props in the show are insane. She chops lemons. She prepares a salmon dish. It comes in and out the oven. She changes costume 5 or 6 times. She irons a shirt with a hot iron. There's constantly things coming out of the fridge, going into cupboards. A bed is made on stage, and she never stops talking. For that, it's an hour and 40, believe it or not. No, I feel.
Hour and 40, sorry.
No, it's good. And there's so many tiny little beats that we have crafted so carefully, and it relies on her being on top of each moment every time. And we get to karaoke, which is where she's out in the club with her friends at this karaoke bar, and she's lighting shots and downing shots, and she has to, every one of those things is to a bar in the music. And she makes it look so effortless, but she worked really closely with our musical director on this, Nick Pinchbeck, who is such a stunning collaborator, and getting her to speak. So she's speaking over counts, which she's trying to count at the same time, and come in with singing lines. So it's not like she's having conversations where she's playing 3 or 4 characters, and then she has to have markers where she knows she can pick up and turn to sing lines. It's extraordinarily difficult, extraordinary. And I've worked on, tons of musicals, new musicals that are complicated and layered. And this was one of the most difficult things I've seen a performer do, and hold that space. So we do sit on the edge of our seat all the way through, kind of clenching. For each moment she gets through, we tick off. We're there with her 100%. And she's extraordinary that she can, if the lemon gets dropped or if something doesn't work, she just carries on, and that is her skill as an actor, that she's just there present in every moment. I always use the analogy of when you're doing point work, when you're doing ballet, you have to fully commit when you're stepping up onto your point shoes. You have to fully commit to land on top of the block. If you're slightly on the edge, your point shoe slips out underneath you. But it's quite terrifying lifting your entire body weight up onto your point shoes for the first few times when you're first training. And that's what that show felt like, that unless you're launching, fully committing into each one of those moments, actually it will slip out underneath you and you will be chasing it for the rest of the show. And so she very boldly steps onto her point shoes every single time. And then, at the end, we have a little, obviously we have all of our take notes and everything, but we do have a little decompress. I have a 10-year-old son, and I definitely find that I have to do a little de-rolling myself, because the content is so raw and so relevant to me that, especially coming out of rehearsals every day, I had to give myself a little kind of mantra, which was something like, that's not my son, this is not my story. This is not my story, that's not my son. It's such an important story to tell, because I started changing the way I was behaving to him when I came home back to Edinburgh on the weekends, in that I was questioning everything he was doing, and I felt the need to kind of like teach him and lecture him and make sure that didn't happen to him. And as important as that is, it was compounded by listening to that script multiple times a day. And actually, I just need to give him a break and give myself a break. That's not my story. That's not my kid. And that's an important thing to recognize as well, that as artists, when we're doing material and content that is hard and deep, we are daily affected by it. Our nervous systems are daily affected by it. And we can't pretend they aren't, so we need to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And, there was a fair deal of intimacy in this as well, which I know you've worked, that's another string to your bow as well. I mean, how do you like to work with actors when they are required to do intimate scenes? There were some intimate scenes, of course, in Alia. What's the best way to do it whilst working with two people they've probably never met before? They've walked into a room and go, hi, my name's Jamie. Hi, my name's Rosamond. Okay, now you two get down and naughty with each other.
Here we go. And that is what we used to do for a really long time, Oliver, and so wild.
Yeah.
I liken it to fight directing, in that we would never say to two people, you guys have been in a bar fight before, right? Great, why don't you just go for it? Because we do that with intimacy. We assume that everybody, I don't know why I'm using my pinky finger here. We assume that everybody has the same sexual experience. So we see something in a script, and we are assuming that actor knows how to deliver that, and that is a type of bias which is unfair and very exposing to actors. And we would never do that in any other part of our industry, in any other part in it. Especially, so fight's the closest I can use. We'd never say, you've been stabbed in a sword fight before, so you'll know what to do here. And then also, it is the only part of our job that we do actually do it. I mean, obviously simulated sex aside, but our lips do actually touch. There is contact between the cells of our skins in a way that is intimate and with intent that is full of connection and desire for connection. And bodies do respond. Whether you're acting or not, bodies do respond. In the same way that you get adrenaline kick if you're having a fight, but you don't actually, your body doesn't tell you to hate the person you're doing a stage fight with. Whereas your body does actually respond when there is an intimate scene. Not always, and varying levels, of course, varying levels between actors, between bodies, between scenes, between familiarity, whether you do it once on set, whether you do it 100 times in a play. But I think those are the things that we've neglected to take care of. There is a set of really brilliant industry standards when it comes to intimacy, which have been, laid down by, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, Ito O'Brien, and the people who standardized the practice. And then those things are, I believe, you take those things and then you make that practice yours within a context. And the important thing to remember is intimacy, like any work in our industry, is specific to that play and to those actors. So what I'd never do is blanket go in with my set of protocol and my set of ways and just apply it to every moment. So a good question, like how do you approach it, is completely context dependent. Whether we're on set and we have no rehearsals, and you sometimes get like, you literally, they'll clear the set for you for like half an hour and say, right, do you want to run through it all? And then we'll come back and film it. And these actors have only just met. Some of the work you do is an actor intake forms, and you get to have a conversation with the actors before, and you chat to them about their experience and what they are hoping for in terms of comfort levels and safety, and then you talk about the artistry of it and what they want to achieve and the story they want to tell, which is as important as the directors, in my opinion, because they're the bodies doing it. It's different in theatre, obviously. I still do one-to-ones. I still will always have a chat with an actor on their own without anybody else in the room, because you just never know what's going to come up. It could be something which they don't want to share publicly but will affect their ability to perform. It may be somewhere on their body they don't want to be touched. And I don't share any of that information with the room unless they want me to, but what I can do is then tailor the choreography and the language we use in a way that doesn't expose them, but in a way that supports them.
Yeah.
And that's a really important part of it. So that's the first bit, is connecting with your actors and saying, hey, what are the things that might stop you being able to do a good job? Because that's really my job. I think sometimes there's a framing of intimacy directors that can be seen as the police and the ones coming in to uphold the rules and to kill the creativity. And actually, I find that if you give actors a clear set of boundaries within which to play, they're actually softer and more creative, because they know they're not going to mess up, or they know they're not going to offend their colleague, or they know that someone's not going to touch them somewhere they don't want to be touched. So you see their bodies relax, which is incredible. And they can really trust that I've got them, and I can speak on their behalf, but also that they are then able to collaborate and play. And the first thing I always say is, I'm going to get it wrong and you're going to get it wrong. And that's okay, because
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't live as well in a state of fear. And I'm there to protect the actors and the production. You know, no one wants to come back and say we didn't feel looked after. And I'm definitely not there to direct the show.
Yeah. No, sorry, go on.
No, that's it. That's all I can think about now.
Yeah. No, it's always interesting, because we had a first kind of brief introduction to it at a drama school. You know, we had I've got to be very candid with you. It was very, very weird at first, because you're going up to someone who you've shared maybe a month or two with, and suddenly you're going, can I touch you here? Can I touch you here? It's very, very odd at first, you know, particularly when it's someone like, you know, strictly on like a platonic basis, or like you're really, really, we're just friends, you know, there's nothing, you know, no disrespect to the girl, or, you know, whoever it is, you know, it's just, you know, I don't see you in that way, but, you know, it's, it's very interesting. And then I think Samuel L. Jackson made a good analogy of this. He did the Graham Norton show, and he said it's a very odd thing. He goes, like, you go up to somebody and you say, okay, where can I touch you? Okay, where can I not touch you? He goes, all right, I want to apologize now for getting excited. I also want to apologize if I do not get excited as well.
Yeah, it's weird. Our job is weird.
Yeah,
I say that that's one of the best icebreakers when things are getting uncomfortable. Is I just literally say out loud all the time, our job is weird. This is so weird, because it allows us to acknowledge that what we do for a living is strange.
It is at times.
What's interesting, Oliver, what you said about asking your colleague, can I touch you here, or is this okay? The is this okay language is really important to have in a room, and I always do set up a consent-led room and offer people alternatives on how to say no in a way that doesn't feel like they're shutting down the room, and we do little exercises, and we get used to saying that. The tricky thing I think we don't acknowledge enough is the hierarchy existed in a room. So it's all very well you going up to an actor and then saying, you know, can I touch you here? And that actor hasn't got your level of fame or your level of experience, or maybe that actor's really good friends with the intimacy director or the director, or maybe this is someone's first job, or maybe the last job you did, you had a terrible time, so your self-esteem's a bit low and you really want to do a good job. Maybe this job is the first time you've worked with this director that you really like and you want to make a good impression. Those things impact whether you say yes or no. Even if the room is, we've all said out loud, you can say no, you're still not going to say no if you feel like your status does not allow you the space to say no, or you feel it might break the room, or everybody else in the room has said no. And you actually are fine with it, or everybody else in the room has said yes. And it's like when everybody says, could we have a shorter dinner and work into the evening? You know, when people are changing calls, and you don't want to be the one to go, I actually would like an hour dinner, or I had plans, or like those things are constantly at play in our industry. Those hierarchies and that status is actually what messes up intimacy work, because we're afraid of getting it wrong and not getting another job. So and this is obviously, we all have our own practices. I'm not a big one for actors asking each other directly, because it's very hard to do that unless I read the room and I can see that they're both equally confident and equally levels of status and can equally call each other out and equally ask for what they need. Then they can get on with it. That's fine. But if there's any imbalance in power at all, I'm not going to be doing those exercises that are like, you can touch me here, you can touch me there. I also think they're unnecessary, because I've done that work in the one-to-ones. And if we're choreographing, I can say, I'd like to offer you these options. How about here? Or we can drift down here. And I already know what is and what isn't. And then also we've had a little feedback where we've gone, we're going to avoid these places, we're going to avoid these, we're a little ticklish, so we're going to avoid under here. And therefore it's not like a personal, oh my God, if I touch you accidentally on your lower waist, I've broken it or I've got it wrong. And that is very much about understanding what the room needs. And I think a lot of intimacy work is taking up the right amount of space. So absolutely, I can go into a room, and I've met actors who I can tell are confident, experienced, sometimes not experienced. They have an equal level of status within the room, outside the room, and I can trust that when they say an enthusiastic yes, I know it's fine. And there are other moments that just need very different handling, and you have to take up a bit more space, and you have to manage it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that's just experience, I think. But also I think it's a really important part of the job, because we are on tight timescales, especially, but you can't come in. I just don't believe you can come in and spend half a day. An actor said to me the other day, which is one of the best things an actor said to me. I always say, what's been your best and worst experience with an intimacy director? Because I like to see, like, what are their expectations? What's useful to them? How I can assist the production. It's not about me and ticking off all the list of things I want to do. What does the production need? What do the actors need? And an actor said to me, I once spent like 2 hours doing a lingering look. And that made me chuckle so much. And I think that's the other side of our industry we need to be careful of. That's the pendulum swinging back in terms of intimacy.
Yeah.
That's going in with your rules, and I'm going to make this room safe, and we're going to spend time making sure this lingering look is safe. And actually, those actors know what they're doing. Yeah. They're fine. They don't need me to help them do a lingering look. They're fine.
Yeah, they know how
and
to
if I've done the groundwork in terms of setting up that consent-led room, giving them avenues that they can contact outside the room, and making sure that we are carefully constructing a system that allows for careful, considered choreography within the bounds of discussed boundaries, and everybody in the room knows the language to use, whether you're a stage manager or a director or even just someone, in a different scene. We're all on the same team, then you're going to be fine. We don't need to do 2 hours on a lingering look.
No.
Definitely.
I think
Definitely not.
it's maybe 2 minutes, not 2 hours.
I'd give it 2 minutes. Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. Look lingering. Okay,
Great. Well done.
perfect. Move on.
Well done.
But no, it's interesting about, you find a way to be close and intimate with someone who you've probably met literally 30 seconds ago. And, and I think another trap, which I know Ewan McGregor talked about this as well, again on Graham Norton, he said, just, this story might get a little bit blue, just I hope you're okay with that. But he said, I did this film with Melanie Laurent, who was in Inglourious Bastards. She's a fantastic actress. And they did this film called Beginners together with Christopher Plummer, who actually, I think he won the Oscar for that, Christopher Plummer, Best Supporting Actor, I think, And he said that before we started, I met Melanie and we're sat in the room with the director. And he said, okay, we're going to do a bit of improv today. I was like, okay, so because you two they're playing a couple, and he goes, okay, so I'd like you to split up with each other. Now, Ewan, he gave me a list of things to say, like, okay, I want you to leave Melanie because you're tired of her, you don't think it's working anymore, you just want a change, you want to move on. Melanie, you do not want him to leave. Okay, go.
Wow.
And it's like,
and they're improvising.
And he goes, and I'm thinking, oh my God, because these people I'm just meeting for the first time. They're probably thinking, this is how I would do it. And he goes, it's a bit like a masturbation scene in a film, because it's a bit off-putting when you see people do it. People realize that's just how you do it.
Exactly. It's like, the only thing you have to bring, unless you have somebody choreographing it for you, is your own experience.
Yeah.
So the way we have noted intimacy scenes in terms of using sexualized language, like, just make it hotter. Right. So now, me as an actor, I'm dredging back into my own sexual experience to find the hottest moment of my life. And then I need to bring that to the room. And that may be completely different. Plus, things that you experience and things that read are completely different. And you're so right. It is so exposing. Like, be sexy. Oh my God, there's nothing harder in the world to do. It's like, I have to bring out my own. We do one of the best practices actually that have come through the training, which is about desexualizing the language that we use. So not saying, I need you to perform a very sexy orgasm for me. We use language like, imagine an expansion, arching your back, gasping for breath. Or is it is it about contraction, and allowing actors to feel like they can hook into a physical thing in that moment is sometimes more useful than saying, what do I look like when I'm having an orgasm? Like, that's awful.
I don't want to see
that. No. It's so exposing.
Yeah.
But that's what we've always done. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
We've said, like, you guys just do that. And then there's also, like, where are the ends of how you are experiencing that with your colleague?
Yeah.
And then there's the ickiness of, like, is my partner acting here, or do they actually fancy me? Right? Or are they holding back because they don't want me to think personally that they are into me? Is this moment not reading because my colleague thinks I'm disgusting?
No, it's a minefield.
This is
isn't it?
all going on in their heads all the time, and it is mortifying and it is hard. And what we have to try and do as intimacy coordinators is to, in the same way that fight choreography, what you're not doing is thinking, you're able to do the choreography and then put your character in there. I understand that, and your performance in there. But you're not thinking, oh my God, does my colleague really hate me? And I really hate them and I hope they die, in terms of this sword fight. But we're doing that with intimacy. And like I said, your body is responding as well. So that's not helpful. That's confusing is what that is. So allowing us ways to say it out loud, my God, is the most useful tool.
Yeah.
Just constantly acknowledging how weird it is. And my job is to make it less weird. That's what I'm there to do. Yeah. I'm not there to say, right, I don't want you to fancy each other. You cannot have any chemistry it needs to, like, those things are going to happen regardless. What we need to do is make a safe container for us to feel like you're at work. This is a job. I need to be able to go to work and feel like I can do my job to the best of my ability with a safe set of boundaries. And I know that my colleague's okay as well. That's really important to actors as well. It's not just making me feel like I'm not being taken advantage or that I have a voice in the room and that my status is acknowledged. It's also about that I know that my actor's okay, my colleague. So I'm not going, God, I hope I haven't embarrassed them, or I hope I haven't made them feel uncomfortable, or I haven't crossed a line with them. If I know what the lines are and that dialogue is open, then it's much easier to go to work. That's what I need to do. I need to make sure my actors can go to work and go home feeling okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And intimacy is not just intimate moments like, kissing or simulated sex. It also can be things like very, very difficult subject matter. It can be things like sexual assault. It can be storylines that are particularly affecting of certain people, domestic violence, all those sorts of things. So, it's about making sure that, however, anything that, for me, it's everything that affects our nervous system.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you make the connection there with the fight core as well, which stage combat and everything, which is the same, because I remember. I've talked about this on here so many times, but I did a play called Widows in Guildford when I was at drama school and stuff. Yeah, did you go to drama school, Oliver? You haven't mentioned that before on here at all. Probably a few times I've mentioned it, but anyway, so I did this thing and we had a fight scene which was input by the director. I think it's not actually in the script, but the director said, "I think we need something here to kind of show the levels of the like another punch from this play, like what it's getting at." And this play was about it was an allegory to the dictatorship of Pinochet, and Chilean dictator from the 79 through to 91, who was one of the most evilest men on the face of the earth. And he's up there with Hitler and Mussolini. He's that evil. And basically I played this character who was much younger than me. I was like playing a 13-year-old boy. And I was 26 at the time, so I had to channel as much as my inner 13-year-old as possible, and half my age mentally. And but it was a joy to play, and I
thrilled for you.
I'd do it again in a heartbeat. But there was this moment where we rehearsed. He said, "We need a fight in the scene to really show the evilness of this regime." So we put this fight scene together. We had two amazing fight coordinators come in and show us what to do. We had like prop guns and everything, which I had to be hit with and that kind of thing. I remember showing it to the group, and they were all just like, "Oh my god!" They thought it was real, and it was like, But then afterwards, even though I knew it was fine, I wasn't hurt in any way, shape, or form. But afterwards, it was almost like it was still in me. Like my nervous system was going. I was still sensing the danger around, and even though I know it's not real, but
not logic.
But your body is going, okay, we've just experienced a really big thing here. Like, where's the danger? Where's the danger? Where's the danger? And but it's and like you say, we need to have these conversations. So these fight scenes and these intimate scenes are kept within a degree of safety, and we can be as realistic as possible, knowing that everything is safe. And it's all right. So
it is. It is. We do silly things where if we're on repeat rehearsing an intimate moment, we do like ways to reconnect, like stupid high fives or a stupid like dance, or like hey, we'd use our real names. So whenever we're choreographing intimacy, we only use character names, because it's not me, Lucy, who is making contact with Oliver's neck. It's our characters who are doing it. And that is one of the most useful and simplest ways of reminding ourselves that it's not me. And when we note it as well, I try not say, in the case of Alia, I don't say, Rosamond, when you sit on Jamie's lap, I try to say, when Jess sits on Michael's lap, can she soften her pelvis or whatever it is. then again, it just saying that out loud just reminds us that we're acting.
That's
And
good.
it's really effective. I mean, I forget all the time, and we all forget all the time to use character names, but it's a really useful in a way. And then at the end, like, hi Rosamund, hi Jamie, high five. We actually don't use that into Alia anymore, just because we've been doing it so often now, and we know that intimate moment so clearly. But yeah, and then we have calls, like fight calls. So you have an intimacy call if the intimacy is significant and requires it, and has counts and has pressure levels and has choreography. That before the show, like you would do a fight call, you just quickly mark through the intimacy, because things can move by 1%. And if it's a long run of a show, maybe that kiss is originally 2 to 3 seconds, and you move 1 degree each show because we're more comfortable with each other, and we know the show really well. Now our mind is drifting to like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to have with my glass of wine after the show tonight. And it's rarely ever because anybody has ill intent. It's just practice. This kiss is now 6 weeks later sitting in the 5-6 second zone, which on the one hand, for actors, we want to keep it professional and safe, but also for storytelling, that kiss is now telling a very different story if it was 2 seconds as opposed to 6 seconds. So it's about keeping the integrity of the choreography in the same way that if it was movement or dance, or the length of time someone walks off stage incredibly slowly as opposed to exiting fast, like changes the meaning of a moment. So we have a Bible as well. Sometimes I'll leave with the stage manager, or the stage manager and I will make a Bible together. And then they can either say to the actors, guys, this has changed. It was this. And now these hands are drifting because nobody's even noticed. And he can either contact me directly and say the choreography is shifting, or that great thing before, which was you would have to go to your colleague, Oliver, and say, I feel like your hands are in the wrong place. There's an accusation in that of intent, whether you like it or not. Even if they go, I hadn't realized. If you can go to the stage manager and say, could we do an intimacy check-in call? That stage manager can call that call without colleagues knowing who has requested it. Again, it's just a very professional way of saying, guys, can we do an intimacy check-in? I feel like things are drifting. Let's go back to the Bible. Do we need to get Lucy back? Can she come back in and check this for us? Or someone has a cold sore. Someone's had a gastro bug. There's been a change of cast. Someone's had an experience in their life, which means that the choreography we set they're no longer able to do. In the same way that if I put 25 fouettes in a choreography, if you sprain your ankle, I'm going to change the choreography. And we can do that with intimacy. Okay, great. This is now no longer lip-to-lip contact. What can tell the story as well? Right. How about nuzzling into a neck? How about drifting lips across each other? There's so many different ways we can make intimate choreography that tells the story that isn't just lip-to-lip contact.
Yeah. And I think it's it's absolutely right, because I'm going to remind, I think I've mentioned this before, but there was I spoke to, did you see A Little Life that was on a few years ago?
No, I heard it was wonderful.
It was insane. It was just such a huge story and dense story, but that's an experience I'll never forget.
Incredible.
Being able to see that in the theatre as well. But there was one of the guys in it, Elliot Cowan's been on here as well a couple of times, and he talked about, of course, led by the great James Norton, and him and James had to do quite a lot of intimate stuff, on that as well. And he said, like, we mapped it all out. We knew what we were doing. We got great intimacy director Sarah Green, who I think was her name, was in there as well, and we were just like, yeah, we did it. But I always had a policy with myself and with James. And I said, what was that? He said, well, no matter how many shows we did one day, whether it was 1 or 2, I'd always go to him before the show, at the interval, and at the end of the show, at least 3 times a day. And I say to him, are you okay? Are you okay? Yeah. Are you okay? And he said, yeah, there was a couple of times he said, yeah, he kind of slammed me down and maybe a little bit too hard there, just be a bit gentle with me next time. And I was like, okay, yeah, no worries. Anything else? Yeah, just just be a bit light with me in that bit. The audience already knows what's up, but just
Yeah.
yeah. But other than that, no, it's all good. But he'd always check in every time. I go, okay, cool, yeah, sorry, did I hurt you? He's like, no, no, it's fine, it's fine. Just we've got. And they had. It sounds like they had a brilliant
That
relationship.
sounds amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that always check in and be like, was that okay? And he'd be like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool, yeah, it's fine. Like, okay,
And making sure that dialogue, that's a muscle that exists, that you are freeing people up to be able to say that without feeling like they are accusing their colleagues of getting it wrong.
mm,
And that's a very difficult balance to strike. And it sounds like they really got that right. That makes me very happy to hear.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Did you
great.
did you see Birdman, the film?
I did see that film, yeah.
Yeah, of course. There's a scene in that where Naomi Watts and
Hmm.
Edward Norton there's a scene where they're on stage, and I think they are playing characters in a play where they have to be intimate. And I think
Hmm.
Edward Norton's character takes it too far and said, "Well, let's give it. Let's. I'm actually feeling it. Let's try and do it on stage in front
Yeah.
of the whole group." And Naomi says, "No, no, I'm not doing it."
Hmm.
And luckily, it didn't come to that actually in the film.
Mm.
But and then afterwards, she has this scene where she goes, "He just tries to fuck me in front of an entire audience," and it's like, and yeah, for some people that's funny. That's and someone else's character behind her goes, "Really? That's kind of hard." And it's like, is
Oh
it?
my God.
Is it? No, that's not hard at all. And we've come a long way. In fact, we have people
We
like
have.
yourself to thank for this practice, which we're implementing now, just to make it feel safe and
Hmm.
secure and everything. But it's yeah. I mean, yeah. Just that there's boundaries, man. There's a bit, just do it politely and
Yeah.
without,
We're at
yeah,
work.
yeah.
We're
And always
literally
check.
at work.
Yeah, and I think if I was Jamie, I'm sure Jamie's brilliant anyway, but if I was him, I'd go up to Rosman, do the same thing as Elliot did. Just be
Yeah,
like, was
yeah.
that okay? Was that okay?
They
Was that
do. They
okay?
do.
Yeah,
Yeah, they are such a family. It's really wonderful. As a company, they are very close, and they are very kind and respectful of each other as well. It is wonderful.
brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah, to see that.
yeah. And yeah, we have people like yourself to thank for the
Oh
calmness which you
goodness.
bring to the room and
I hope
and
so.
the safety as well. And of course, that's a lead on to Inter Alia. We won't talk about it. I won't do any spoilers today because I know it's still quite a new play, and there's a lot of people going to see it in London right now, and it's going to Broadway. So we won't spoil it too much, but we'll go to a certain extent, but we won't go too far. But I've been lucky enough to see it twice, and
Mhm.
it's just brilliant. It's brilliant. It's like someone called it prima facie's mother. Yeah,
Wonderful. We'll take
yeah,
it.
yeah. No, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant story about. There's a lot of prima facie similarities, but
Mhm.
in this one, and I've said this to Georgia on here as well, which was um, it's almost like it's like a role reversal. Like you don't see the victim on stage this time, you see the
Mhm.
perpetrator, and you see
Yeah,
the
yeah.
perpetrator side of the story. I won't tell you exactly what happens because I'll let you go and see the play, guys. But or see it if it's in the cinema near you, because I know it's doing the rounds at the moment. So it's a shift in perspective, and you see what it's like from the other side of a case like this, and it opens up a lot of questions about motherhood, fatherhood, family, connection with the young generation these days, the access to pornography, there's so many layers to this, and about how we are teaching, like prima facie, we're teaching a lot of people about consent
Hmm.
and what is right and what is abhorrently wrong in so many
Yeah.
ways. Yeah, but anyway, what's been your experience of working on this play and its subject matter?
Mm, my goodness. Um, I mean, it's been a life-changing experience, truthfully, both content and like the show itself. I'd not worked Justin. Oh, I did Fear of 13 with him, but only a couple sessions. So we sort of met on that.
Mm,
And then he sent me the script and he said, I'm making this. What do you think? And I I found it, I had like a nervous system reacting just reading the script, being a mother, but also there's so much in it about the very quick change in not very many of years when it comes to intimacy between people and in relationships, and about consent. And I'm raising a boy, and consent is my job as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, even just, I'm 44, and things have changed so massively since I was dating. Very, very long, when I was a teenager and when I was in my early 20s. And that really struck me, that actually we as parents now just have no idea what it's like out there. And acknowledging that and facing it, and the long-term impact of social media and the internet, and also expectations, so masculinity, all of it was so impactful daily. And we as a team, as a creative team, Susie's writing is extraordinary. She's my goodness, I've never worked on a play where I've gone home and lines have stayed with me, in different ways. And then Rosamund's ability to take that text and just bring it alive, and to tell that story, is really, really an incredible thing, and such an honor to witness. My God, every day to sit in that room and to see her take that and grapple it and make her own, and the dialogue between everybody, and Jamie and Jasper, who was our original son, and now Cormac, who's jumped on board so quickly, bless him, straight into the fire in like 2 weeks rehearsal. He was back and he learned the part.
Wow.
It physically, I mean, it was a very collaborative room, I would say. Justin's got a wonderful policy where he's like, look, best idea wins, which I think is really fun, and it allows everybody to have an opinion, from our stage management team to our sound team to our, the rest of the creative team. Mm-hmm. Everybody who has a thought about something, and I don't mean like in a too many cooks way. And I think that becomes quite respectful, actually. What you do after a while is you contribute, and then you know that we're only contributing our best ideas, because actually there's this boiling pot of amazing stuff bouncing around. And sometimes an idea can lead to an idea as well. So I'll go, I know this isn't right, but if she stands on the table there, that might be an interesting expression of whatever this is. And he'll go, okay, it's not the table, but that's made me think of this. And somebody else will go, I know what it is, it's this. So that stepping stone of collaboration is really fun in a room, because we're not going to get to that idea unless we've had all these ideas boiling first. And it cracks open things in a really interesting and fun way. So as a on the creative team, generally was really fun, and as movement and intimacy was also obviously just challenging and brilliant. The consent thing is very close to my heart. I'm actually in the process of writing a book, which I had started before Fantastic. I got the script. Yeah, I'd started thinking about ways in which I could take my consent practice in intimacy and teach my son, really. I was like, wow, these are amazing tools that I'm learning. How do I use them to teach my son actually what consent was? And he's learning consent at school. He knows no means no. And there are consent practices that are taught in school, and that language is around everywhere. And we use it as a household, obviously. But what I started to realize was, in the same way that you can know how to say no in a room, that the status and what you have to gain and lose in a room ultimately decides whether you're going to use that tool or not. And I'm not sure we're quite there yet with consent education. And it's pretty much what Jessica's son says at the end of the play. Is he says it's all very well, because she's a feminist and she's been teaching him about consent, and your body's your body, and he knows the little phrase, is this okay? And he knows about consent, and he knows that he's meant to respect women, and yet he's out in the world confronted with the things that young people are confronted with, and he's not used that stuff. And the question for me is why? What stopped him taking that theory? Because I'm sitting here as a mother going, I'm such a great mom. I've taught my son all about consent. And I said, like, what is stopping him using it? And he's he's such an eloquent kid. I'm learning so much from him. Anyway, the book is an ongoing project in between shows, which is a frustrating and wonderful thing, because every time I do a show, I learn more, but then I want to get the book finished. But
It's a lot bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
exactly. So it's about teaching consent to young people, and it's about intimacy directing, and it's about my own kind of journey in terms of being a people pleaser and coming out late, actually, and how consent and boundaries definitely informed that. And yeah, so that sitting alongside this play has been incredible, and I'm forever sitting in rehearsals writing stuff down for the book from these incredible discussions that we have. And Michael, the character, Jessica's husband, one of the best moments in the play, I think, is a speech right at the end that Michael, Jessica's husband, says, where he says, "It was different in my time. Women, we were told girls were playing hard to get. We were told we had to pursue them because they had to say no the first time, because otherwise they'd be seen too easy." I'm paraphrasing the wonderful Susie here. But there's no ways, if you asked a girl out or you wanted to kiss her, that she would say yes the first time, because then she'd be too easy.
Yeah.
So you were expecting a no the first time, or at least some pushback. So it was your job to flirt more and to request again and to push that no or that hesitance, because that's how you got her. And that was the game, and that was the respectful way of doing it. And we think about that now and we go, that's madness.
That's just crazy. Yeah.
And that was when I was in my 20s. That wasn't that long ago.
No.
And Michael says, what am I meant to be teaching him when those were the rules I played by? Yeah. So it's a very pertinent time.
Yeah.
And while we are rewriting consent education, while we are grappling with the manosphere, grappling with masculinity, grappling with what that means to raise children in a world where the world has access to them. They have access to the world. Yeah.
And it's like the times are changing, and we change with them, but sadly some people don't, and
no.
It's I don't think I've talked about this before, but there was I mentioned on a previous episode that again, I won't spoil the play, but the event that happens, that we discover happens at the end. I took some friends. I'll tell two very quick things here. So I took some people to go and see it. I've spoken about this before, but one of them was someone who's not really. It's not like he's not a big theatre goer. He's just a bit like, he knows the theatre exists, but he's like, it's not really my thing. Blah blah blah. Yeah. It's like, no. I said, no, come and see this play. I think you really enjoy it. Come to the cinema. We'll see the broadcast. It's only local, and you're home like in 10 minutes afterwards. You're not getting the tube back at 11 o'clock at night and waiting at St Pancras station for the last train. You're not doing that.
Yeah.
But anyway, we watched the play. We watched what happened at the end, and he looked at us and I said, so what did you think? And he just kind of stone faced, like kind of just didn't know what to say. And he said, yeah, I had to stop two of my friends from doing that. Yeah. And you're like, seriously? Wow. And he was like, yeah, I had to stop two of my friends from doing that back in the day. And that event, actually, and here's the second one, I just remembered after I had that conversation with him that happened to someone in my school at the time. Yeah. And we were... How were we? I think this was year 9. So we were like 14, 15. And this happened, that event happened between two people at a party one night.
I can believe it. Yeah.
And news, it spread around the school. And as far as I'm aware, the police weren't involved. There were no witness statements taken. There was no reports of... And in fact, the person who did it eventually did get kicked out of school, but not for that reason. For stealing. This guy he would sneak into the where we would, as far as I know anyway, where we had PE or physical education. We would put all our valuables in a little basket, and then the teachers would take them away into a locker and lock it, and then take the key out with them.
Wow.
or was it anyway? I don't know how they did it, but then this guy would sneak in, smash open the locker, and steal people's watches and
Whoa,
wallets and everything, and he got caught, and
wild.
he was kicked out of school for stealing, not
Right.
for that.
Hmm. Sexual assault. Yeah.
Yes, for sexual assault. And I just remembered that. I kind of put it to the back of my mind
Hmm.
for years, and then suddenly that play happened, and
Yeah.
it was like, oh shit!
Hmm.
I remember that guy did that to
Hmm.
her about when we were
Yeah.
14 years old,
Wow.
and I thought,
Common. Mm.
wow, I think, and then it shows me like these what Susie's plays have done is that they've really opened up a huge conversation about,
Huge.
like you mentioned there about, you think, and I think and again, this is not a spoiler, but Rosamund Pike's character says, I think there's an aura about her in the beginning that she knows what she's doing. Like
Yeah.
everything's
Yeah.
fine. They live in a beautiful upper middle class home. They've got
Feminist. Yeah.
feminist. She's killing it at work. She's a
Hmm.
brilliant lawyer like Tessa in Prima Facie.
Hmm.
Everything's, she's a judge. She's a judge, right? Or is she just
Hmm. She
yeah,
is. Yeah. Yeah.
judge, yeah.
She's a judge.
And everything's going absolutely perfect. Brilliant marriage, amazing kids, and doing really well in school. But
Hmm.
there's a barrier which goes up, and you
Hmm.
realizes that barrier has been there for quite some time. And
Hmm.
then once she breaks through that barrier, what happens next happens. And but what was it like being in the rehearsal room when for those scenes in particular? And again, we're not going to spoil it,
Mm.
but when you were in the rehearsal room for that moment or
Yeah.
those moments in the
Hmm.
play.
I mean, we those particular moments, especially that final scene, Susie rewrote many times,
Oh, really?
and I feel like it was because it has to be right. It's such
Hmm. Yeah, of course.
an incredible, and that sounds so obvious. Of course, it has to be right, but the delicacy of a nuance of a moment in terms of how we feel about a character can absolutely change with one line or one breath or it is also the only moment in the show where Jessica stops narrating out loud to us. So there's no pauses
No,
in the show
no, it's pretty intense.
because
Yeah.
it's pretty intense. And Justin always says, which is really true, is that if she pauses, it means she's stopped thinking because she's thinking out loud constantly to us. She's talking directly to us. And then she'll turn and say a line to a character and then she's back to us. So if she stops talking, it means that her brain has stopped. So she never stops talking. She can't take pauses. Her brain is consistently working. And that final scene, there's this incredible moment where we kind of go, it becomes so heightened that it mostly just becomes dialogue. Every now and then she'll send us a little thought. But I do get the image of like she's out in space. It's kind of she's weightless
Yeah. Yeah.
and she's having to face up to everything and her world is just crashing in front of her and it is just her and her son having this conversation and she's computing as fast as she can um, and she does address us every now and then but I do think that the marvel of that final scene is that decision and it all of a sudden we feel like we're watching this thing as opposed to being in her brain and experiencing kind of like a live with her where suddenly we're running to keep up as much as she's running to keep up.
Hmm.
Whereas, as you say, the rest of the show, she's on top of her point shoes. She's there.
Yeah.
She's talking with us. Even the things that go badly, she's still able to reflect and be on top of it. Being in the room for that was, yeah, it was really intense. And also just amazing to see people at work, people who are so skilled and so eloquent. And we had discussions, like we're having now. You shared stories, we shared stories, and they helped us. They helped Rosamund. She's an incredibly intelligent performer. She likes to have references that she can draw on. So she spent hours in court watching judges and hearing trials. She interviewed young people. She interviewed parents of rape victims and of of their children who'd been accused of sexual assaults and other things, and she spent time immersing herself in it. So a lot of that last scene felt like we'd built a world around it as well, in terms of our stories, in terms of our experience, like you just shared, and the importance of it. So it felt, I think we felt the weight of that last scene, those last few scenes. And it's hard. And the play as a whole, the structure, the first 2/3 are actually quite light. People think, oh my goodness, this is a heavy story, and it's dark. But actually, the first 2/3 are a joy.
Yeah.
It's genuinely funny.
They really are.
She's so funny, and she's so witty and clever. And actually, it's not a big, heavy 1 hour and 40 minutes. It spins on its head for that last over many minutes, kind of half an hour. But it is amazing in that way, and we definitely, we felt it in the room. I would say we felt that for sure. But also, your brain is working, isn't it? So you are also able to step out and talk about structure, and talk about scene changes, talk about how do we get her off the table there. I do remember, though, that final scene you talked about, we were talking about earlier, just before we were recording, about the music. And Aaron, incredible. That last scene, Aaron LeCount's stunning piece of music she's written specifically for the show. The first time we played that out in the room, we still talk about that experience as a creative team. And Max Ringham, who's our sound designer, he still talks about that moment of sitting in the room and seeing the children run around and seeing her look for the coats, which is a callback to a load of moments in the show. And she can't find him. And I don't want to give too much away, but the extraordinary moment where we were all taken aback by it, and we had planned it and talked about it and seen it a few times. And there was a moment it landed when the soundtrack came together with the story, with what we'd been on. It all just landed together in that final moment. And I think we were all like, oh my goodness, that's powerful. And that's also testament to the work that she does, taking us all the way through the show to get there, to earn that moment at the end. Extraordinary.
Yeah. And I second that. Yeah. Like we said before we started, I remember watching that scene and hearing that soundscape in the theatre, and well as on the cinema screen as well, it was just one note and it just went, and suddenly this world was just created. Like, it had memory, it had sadness, it had guilt, it had shame, it had adolescence, it had all these things that the play is about, circling around what happens at the end as well, but then the play as a whole. And what Susie's absolutely brilliant at is creating this like divine, brilliant world. And then suddenly it's like a bubble, those blow up bubbles you used to get as a kid. And it's just like, it's floating in the air, floating. And then someone comes along with a pin and just goes, yeah. And then suddenly it's like, oh
damn.
Fuck. But that moment, it was just like, it gave me goosebumps, that moment. And of course, being in the theatre, I was just hearing this music and I'm going, what is this moment? And then, what a thing to leave the audience with. You guys must have, I was, us creatives and stuff in the business, when people go, oh my God, that was such a good moment. Oh, you're so talented. You're like, oh, thank you very much. It was very good. Yes, thank you. But you guys must have been in that moment, seeing that, thinking, wow, we create that. You must have been so proud as a group when that moment happened.
It's such a good question. I'm not sure if in those moments wholly, if it is that groundbreaking, because you're tired and your brain is full and you're a bit snowblind. I know we were really moved by it. I know we were genuine. Is this going to work? Is this any good? I know we were really moved by it. I know that Aaron's music really affected us, and it's such a true collaboration. That's what I love about that moment. It is Aaron's music. It is Justin's idea. It is Miriam's set. That note hits, and it is the cue for young Harry to come down the slide. and he enters into the space, and then all the other kids come, and it is Grace Duggan, who's our associate director, who is extraordinary, and she has been so pivotal in working with the young people in our young company and getting them to be what we need them to be. It's her work. It's Rosamund's. She's taken us on this journey. It's the way she stops and looks back at them. It's Natasha's lighting of how she sets that. It is a moment where everybody's part in it has to land. And let me tell you, we have also done 450 versions of that.
450?
No, not that many. But you know what I mean? Like we've done hundreds of changes where we go, okay, the light should go there. Okay, now move it there. Okay, now that moment has to there. Okay, now shift that. No, that's not working. Now we've knocked everything else out. Okay, go back. Now we cut the music there. In some versions there was a line and then we cut the line. In some versions he's there, you know, and sometimes we're so close to it we can taste it, and it's always good enough. Of course it is. It's always extraordinary. But as creatives, you're never quite, you're like, there's more to get there, there's more to land, and sometimes it's completely intangible. It's that feeling when the end of a show hits and you go and that you can't, it's not always about counts of when the lights goes down. It's about the whole rhythm of the show getting us to receive that. But then it is the tiny balance, the little mixes, the tiny tunings, which get people on their feet, which gets that moment to land in people, in their chests. And that is sometimes so frustrating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I mean, and rewarding, I think, as well, because, you know, people always see, like the audiences see the final product. And, you know, and I've said this on here before, like when I go to the theatre, you know, when I was younger, I used to think that's where they started on day one, you know.
Yeah, that good.
Yeah, that good, yeah. You started on day one and it was just polished.
Yeah.
There it is. You know, nothing needs to be changed. Everything's fine. But then, of course, that's completely incorrect. You know, you're starting from scratch. You start with a script, which is changing and evolving all the time. You know, and then suddenly you see the final product, but you don't realize how many takes or how many ideas went into that final product. And you're sitting in the stalls, you know, with your head in your hands going, oh, we're never going to find this angle. We're never going to get it.
It was so close. Yeah.
So close. But ultimately you do find it. And then, you know, but it is a frustrating process, but it's also, you know, I think for anything, whether you're an actor trying to find a character or yourself finding safety in the rehearsal room or finding the right choreography or the right movement, or Natasha finding the right lighting or Justin finding the right moment for an actor to drop a line, or not drop a line, but drop the line in the right place, you know, or think about this in terms of this scene, blah blah blah, or the whole team, Ben and Max Ringham doing the sound, you know, it's a collaborative thing and everyone goes through it, you know, no matter what, and you find the joy in it and also you think it must have been so great when you watch the show back the way it is now. And of course, the success of it's gone from the National to the West End, and now it's going to Broadway. You know, you must sit there and just look at it and go, yeah, we made that. We made that. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think it's different. It's obviously a different kind of feeling when it's an ensemble on stage, and it's a different feeling when it's mostly, and of course, Jamie and Cormac are exquisite and incredible team players and incredible pivotal parts, but it is held mostly by one person, and to have seen her journey through it as well, you know, she deserved that Olivier
100%.
More than I can say, you know, not just for the performance that you see every night on that stage, but for her the deep interrogation of every part of this process for her. You know, she's been injured as well, and she has just kept going in a way that I've seen stamina and resilience. Yeah. And the team that holds all that space for her, right down to our stage management team. And those things are possible because of the massive collaborative effort of everybody, the associates, the assistants, the she has an incredible PA who's been so pivotal to the process as well. And, you know, we just have this amazing, you underestimate all the work that has gone to get her onto that stage every night, her resilience and her determination, but also this crew. And that strikes true of Primer as well. I've heard those stories as well. I do think a lot of that to do to, you know, blow his horn, but I do think Justin Martin is an extraordinary director in terms of how he builds his teams.
For sure.
I do think he has an incredible steadiness and sturdiness. He's kind of unflappable in a way that is, it's a truthful unflappableness. You don't see him holding it in tension. It's like he understands everybody's process, and he respects everybody's process, and he respects that everybody has a contribution to make, and also that there is a show to make. And he has held everybody's needs in an extraordinary way. Yeah, I have really enjoyed this process of working with him, and I do think that is rare. Yeah. I've been lucky to work with lots of directors, and I do feel like his ability to, he's kind of egoless in a way. It's about the show, it's about the work for him, and not about him. And that is a very hard thing to get right. And, you know, I've even been on my own journey with that. I remember when we took off from North Country to Broadway, I was like, I'm a Broadway choreographer now, guys.
Look at me.
I need to make this show more Broadway.
Yeah.
And I felt this strange pressure. You know, a lot of it was kind of internalized. And I said to Connor, I want to change a little bit of Duquesne Whistle. And he was like, okay. And Connor's also a fantastic director, and I've loved working with him.
Yeah.
And will repeatedly work with him. And he was like, okay, little smile. And I was like, okay, great. So we're going to change this. We're going to shake it up. And I like lined it up. And my choreography is typically not very lined up and not very showy. And I put it in the rehearsal, and, you know, they were Broadway actors. They were like sharp as anything, and it looked so shiny. And he came to me afterwards and he said, so are you going to keep it in? And I was like, yeah, I love it. I'm a Broadway choreographer now. And I went home and I saw it the next morning. And I was like, oh, I made those changes for me, not for the show. And I took it all out and I put it back the way it was.
Okay.
But I needed to experience that to be able to articulate it. Because so often you go into a room and you go, I need to be good. I need to do a good job today. And that's not about being vain. That's a willingness to want to do well. That's like I want to be asked to work again. I want my part to be important and good on the show. I want to show up. But the trouble is, if you let that voice be louder than looking around the room and seeing what the room needs and seeing what the show needs and seeing what the story needs and the actor needs, then you can't hear that. You have to sometimes shut that off. And I do think Justin has the ability to shut that off when he needs to and go, what does the show need? What does my team need? What does the story need? As opposed to what do I, Justin Martin, as a director need? So there you go.
No, you're absolutely right. You know, and, you know, I remember we did a show at university, and then, you know, we were constantly changing and editing our scripts and everything. It was like a devised piece, but I got to do voiceovers for the first time on stage, which was really cool. And there was one line in particular, we got to like a week before, and she said, okay, we need to cut this line. Our leader was, I need to cut this. He says, I don't think it's working anymore. And then, okay, well, which line is it? Oh, it's one of Ollie's lines, the Sky's Blues line. And I was like, What?
I beg your pardon.
What? And it was like, and she went, look at Ollie's face. And I was like, no. It's like, wait, which line, Lisa? She was like, oh, the Sky's Blue line. And I love that line. She said, no, I love that line. It's so good. And she was like, yeah, but Ollie, you've got loads of lines anyway, so it's fine. And I was like, yeah, but I just, I really like it. Then someone just went, Ollie, it's for the piece, Ollie. And I was like, shut up. So ultimately it got cut, so that unfortunately, but you know, it's like, and then afterwards I was like, okay, I selfishly wanted to keep that, but you know, it was
of course,
but you know, and I was like, okay, and now looking back, you know, would it have fit? We'll never know, but you know, but no, but it's true, sometimes you have to make sacrifices for the piece. And I think I remember Susie talking about, again, prima facie, like those early days of, I don't know if it was the same on Inter Alia, but she said the same when she brought the original script in. She said, look, if we had done what I had originally written, Jodie would have been on stage for about 6 hours, and then and everyone would have just been so bored. Whereas, so we were going through the script, and she said, I think Justin said, okay, that's got to go, that's got to go. And she was like, no, I really like that bit. It's really good. She was like, no, sorry, Susie, it's got to go.
Yeah.
You know, as we say, kill your darlings in the theatre.
Yeah.
And Susie had a great response to that. She said, okay, look, one thing, I don't really like to kill my darlings. It says, I kill my darlings, but then I leave them in the car park for later.
Yes, you can use them another time. Yeah,
we can use them another time.
For sure.
And of course, she wrote the book of Prima Facie. It's now a novel. I'm not sure if she'll do the same for Inter Alia. I think she should actually, you know, be like the extended edition or part 2 of the play or whatever it is. I hope she does do that. I think that'd be very cool. But just got a few more things left for you, Lucy, then we can just finish up.
Go.
So I think as a result of this play, you know, it's sparked in Inter Alia, it has sparked a lot of conversations about, you know, particularly like, and I'm reminded of adolescence. Did you see Adolescence as well?
Yes, Jack Thorne. Yeah,
Jack Thorne, Stephen Graham, etc. You know, it's you know, that opens up a lot. I remember there's one moment in the last episode, sorry for anyone watching Adolescence, spoiler ahead, but in the last episode, there's a conversation between Stephen Graham's character and the lady who played his wife. So I can't remember your name if you're listening, sorry. And you're brilliant, by the way. And there's a moment where they talked about how they would think everything's all right because they get him the computer, they get him access to the internet, and think, oh yeah, then he'd go and disappear into his room and play games until 1-2 o'clock in the morning. And you think, oh, that's what kids do nowadays, all this technology and everything. But are they playing games? Are they just playing FIFA or Red Dead Redemption or, God forbid, Grand Theft Auto at a young age? And you know, it's a brilliant game, by the way. But make sure over 18s only, guys. Over 18s only. And then it gives you an idea of like this underworld of what's going on, you know, and like you said earlier, you know, it's made, you know, you talked about how it's like, you know, the relationship you have with your son now and everything, make sure he's okay and educating him on consent, you know, it's, how does that, well, what's that experience been like? Yeah.
Such a great question. I'm just going to plug you in.
Okay. All right. Transfer.
I think we as parents at the moment are inundated with fear-mongering about screens and about the internet. And it can feel very, very overwhelming. And it can feel like nothing you're doing is going to be good enough. I don't know what other parents are doing. I can tell you how I reconcile that. I think about adolescence a lot, actually, because I think the parallels between adolescence and Inter Alia is one to do about teaching how to let people down and how to be let down, how to receive a boundary and how to give a boundary. So how to be disappointed and know that you're still okay, how to have someone tell you no and know that you are still have worth and still belong in the world and are still good. And the being rejected isn't going to break you, knowing that you have other things. So we are raising our son. There are 4 of us co-parents who are raising our son. And the thing we talk about a lot is his kind of hinterland. So how do we expand his life beyond one group of friends, beyond one thing? He's recently moved school. We moved to Edinburgh, and that's been incredible to see his resilience, but also the way a different group of people, the way a different world, the way a different outlook, community, diversity mix can completely begin to change who he is. And that's been really like, wow, God, we can only do so much as parents. And so we're trying to get him to build friendship groups and activities that exist in different ecosystems, so that if one goes badly, he's got these other friends over here. And he's got this activity, which doesn't wholly define him. So he's not fully defined by one thing. And the third part of the book I'm writing is the memoir part, which I think is about that for me and how I felt like my whole aim in life was to be good and to fit into a box and to do well at that. Good daughter, good mother, good wife, good girl. And the things that I think, going back to that consent conversation we had, the basics of what I'm trying to teach my kid is that context is everything. And we had this amazing moment. I won't go into it too long because it's a long story, but I was teaching him some consent language, and it was to do with loom bangles he was making. And I said to him, like, he said, "Oh, choose a gem that you want to put on it." I was making mine, and I said, "Oh, can I have that one?" And he sort of looked really sad, and he went, "Okay." And I said, "Okay, hang on. You don't want me to have that one." Teaching opportunity, obviously, because I'm like high-fiving myself. Great mom. And I said, "You don't want me to have it?" And he said, "Not really." And I said, "Okay, but why did you say yes?" And he was like, "Well, I don't want to upset you." And I said, "Okay, that's fair. Let me teach you some ways in which you could say no and yes." And we do this task, which I teach actors, which is about saying yes if. So it's a yes, but it's got some boundaries. So yes, if you give it back straight afterwards, or no, but you can have this one instead. No, I don't want to do that, but how about we try this? And it's a really useful way of keeping a conversation going forward, but putting up a boundary. And it's very useful in a rehearsal room and useful for kids. Can I borrow your top for that party? No, but you could borrow this one. Or can I? No. Oh, yes, if you make sure it's clean when you give it back or whatever. So we practiced this, and he's very proud of himself. And then I said to him, "Okay, now what if I said to you, I'm your mummy, and if you love me, you'll give me that?" And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "How does that feel in your body?" And he said, "Well, I'm angry with you for making me feel like I have to prove my love to you." And I was like, "Great." And we had this amazing conversation about, great to have the theory, but now you're in the real world. Now you're with your friends, and your friends are saying, unless you look at this pornography on my phone, or unless you send a nude or ask, whatever the classic things are, or maybe as simple as, do this thing, come jump. He was on the playground the other day, and he's not an aggressive kid, but this new kid who arrived in the group asked him to join in a fight with him, and he pushed this kid on the playground. I said to him, "What was that about?" And he said, this kid asked me to stick up for him, and I wanted him to like me. I was like, that's where it starts. That's where it starts. And I said, if you'd said no, what's the worst case scenario? That kid now no longer likes you and doesn't want to be your friend. How bad would that feel, as opposed to how bad it felt to do something that you didn't feel was you? And I think, God, I don't know. I'm definitely not any more qualified than any other parent, and I definitely don't have the answers. I think you pick the thing as a parent. You pick the thing that you're going to try, because who the hell knows how we're going to get it right? And that's the thing I've picked. That's the thing I've picked to try, is to teach him that if a girl rejects him, it's not the end of his world, because he's still good. And or a boy rejects him, he still has other things. And it's a muscle that you have to practice, because I genuinely felt like if I said no to someone, or if I did something wrong, I was no longer lovable. And that is a long journey to go on. And I think that's what I've taken from inter alia and from adolescence. Is that actually it's we can teach theory, and we must have restrictions. I have screen restrictions. He has an app on his iPad that tells me every single thing he's doing, and he will have that until he's 16. And we have a policy where there's no screens behind closed doors. So if he wants to be he's only 10, so he doesn't have a laptop, and he's not on social media. But he doesn't have a phone, and we'll see how that lasts. Each challenge that comes up with a new age, being sturdy in that and letting him know why. I don't know, Oliver. Like it's a very tricky thing, and I realize I sounded very preachy there. I'm interested in it because I'm writing a book on it, and because
not at all.
it's something I care about. That's the path I'm choosing. Whether it's right, what kind of kid am I creating? Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know.
keep walking down that path, man. And that's the brilliance of these plays and Inter Alia and Prima Facie. I'll say it before, it would change the fucking world. We really do.
Let's hope so.
And of course it does. Of course it does. When it's done right, if we change the world. And I'll just say, just very quickly, before we get to the last two questions, I want to just get this story in quickly. I think, again, going the twist of Inter Alia, it promotes these conversations of, we do these things because we want other people to like us. We want to be part of the gang. We want to say, everyone can go, we're not, again, sorry to be a bit blue here, but like, we're not virgins anymore. And it's like, and you want to be able to say that, but at the end of the day, who gives a shit, and I think that's a big thing I learned, which was, I remember in school one time I was going up to the popular crowd in adversity. If actually there was nothing popular about them at all, but and I remember saying to one boy, I remember going, can I play? They were playing like Uno or something, and he turned around to me and he said, no, Oliver, Jesus, you always get in the way.
Oh my God, Oliver.
And I just thought, and that stuck with me for a long time. It did.
I bet you did.
And I remember I didn't say anything to him. I just turned around and went and sat back down in my seat, and I just thought, shit, do I do that? Do I always get in people's way? And of course, I know I didn't. Now I can say that now on reflection. But it took me a long time to get over that, and and I sit here now talking to you about it, and the message of the play as well, which was, we're fed all these things by the idiots in the playground, or by the idiots on social media, on just for the record, I think Twitter or X, whatever you call it now, is a cesspool of toxicity and negativity.
We're staying off that.
Get off that. I mean, I do have an account, but I barely look at it. I should really delete it anyway. But that, it's those things, they just stick with you. And it took me a while to shake it off, and thankfully I now realized it was just an idiot at school being the idiot that he was. And ultimately how being liked, I think, by adolescents and everything, being liked is just so overrated. In fact, it shouldn't be rated at all. It shouldn't be anything. You are your own unique, brilliant self, and you will find your own way in life, whether you want to go into the arts like we have, if you want to go into engineering, or if you want to go into be a pilot, or you want to be someone who runs a business like a restaurant or a cafe, or whatever it is, whatever makes you happy, and you can make a living on pretty much off anything these days. If you do something that makes you happy, and you're doing good to yourself, I mean good to other people, and not taking any shit from idiots, that's perfect. And who cares what you are at a certain age? It really, 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 really doesn't matter, and no one cares. And just keep being yourself, and never be ashamed of thinking like there's this checklist of life. It's all bollocks. It's all bullshit.
It's mad, isn't it?
And
it's mad because we're fed that, though, aren't we? Like we're taught that, and I do think for young people, that is their whole world. That's why the expanding of a world is important. Like that's what I love what you said about theatre. You have to find your people, and you have to find
100%.
the people that fit you. And I do think theatre is often that that little safe place for the kids who haven't felt like they fit into the things which the rest of the world is telling them they can see. So a boy who's into football, or I think theatre is often this little safe ground for those of us that were a bit quirky and a bit different. But you're right, Oliver, and I do think reminding it's takes a long time to get here to believe that and to know that. I don't know if I could convince my 10-year-old of that when he's been left out of something, because he does care. He does really care. That's his entire world. that's the thing I don't know how to do yet, is to go, it's gonna get better. You just have to trust that that kid isn't important and what
Yeah.
he said isn't important.
Yeah. And again, we were talking before we came on about I feel very lucky to have had most of pretty much most of my childhood, I think. Yeah. Pretty much most of my childhood in the pre-social media days, like in the summer holidays. My first ever mobile phone was a little black Nokia brick,
Yeah,
which had
same.
snakes and ladders on, and that was
Same.
it. And I believe you me, I love playing those snakes and ladders. That was very cool. But that was as far as it went. You know, there was no internet on your phone like what the iPhones and stuff can do now. You know, my adolescence was going to the park on a sunny day in the summer holidays and going on the climbing frames or going on the slides or going for a long walk or going with your friends into town and sitting down at a table and talking to one another with no phones face down on the table, or you sit around at a table and you're all on texting on Instagram or whatever, you know. And you know, I feel like it's opened up a lot of really, really big questions about where we're going with childhood and teenage years and early 20s and adolescence in general. And of course, that's the beauty of this play and also the beauty of theatre as well, and what it can do. It can, and the arts in general, you know, adolescence on screen for Netflix, you know, what it can do. And we need brilliant people like yourself to keep making this work and keep asking these questions and being part of these big projects. So, so I think we owe you a lot of, we owe you and the whole Inter Alia team a lot of thanks for everything that you do.
What a thing.
Indeed,
you.
yeah. And yeah, these things come with time, and you know, always it does get better, always. And that's the beauty of it.
Well, we'll figure it out. As the more we talk about it, the more we can face it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Lucy, thank you so much for today. This has been absolutely great. Thank you for being so open and honest with me and sharing your stories and for your time as well. It's been a real joy. I've just got 2 quick fire questions left for you today. Last 2 questions for every guest. So first one is, what would you say was a bit of advice you wish you heard when you were starting out?
Knowing what you're not is as important as knowing what you are. I think we put a lot of emphasis, especially as creatives, like when you're not an actor, like even as an actor, I suppose you're trying to work out what your speciality is. But like, it is such a relief now when a job comes through and I go, that would be fun, but I'm not the person who can deliver that for you in the way you want it to, and I'm not going to put myself through that. Is really good to work out what you don't want to do, because we have a scarcity mindset, don't we? We're like, take everything, and you do have to take everything for a while, but in that process, working out what you want to do, what you're good at, means you will get better and more work suited to you if you can start to work out who you are and what you want. And then also just stop trying so hard to please everybody.
That's 110,000,000,000%. Yeah. It's like you just, long story, you can't do it.
No, and it's exhausting, and you lose yourself in trying.
Yeah.
You lose yourself.
Yeah. We all have had that experience, or will have that experience at some point.
100%.
But from that experience, we learn you just can't do it. You can't do it. So why even bother?
Yeah, exactly. Work out what your values are. Work out who matters to you.
Indeed.
And try that. Yeah.
Live your life on your terms always, and just be nice as well.
Yeah. Oh my God, underrated. Kindness and manners.
Criminally underrated. Anyway, and finally today, what would you say has been an experience or experiences you've had in your career up to now that you'll never ever forget?
Oof. Doing Girl from the North Country for as long as I did with that team was career defining and life defining. And there's a beautiful book Todd Armand has written, actually, which is about Girl from the North Country and getting it through COVID. And it's a series of interviews, and he's interviewed all of us. And it's wonderful to see the documentation of all of our journeys through it. But taking it from the Old Vic into London, to Broadway, to the live capture, the Tonys, to Australia, back into UK tour, back into London. Like, that journey and that arc with that same family. That creative team became our family. You know, Connor and Ray Smith and Simon Baker and Simon Hale. To be able to come back together with those incredible artists who become your family was a dream. And also, I was by far the youngest and most inexperienced on that team, and they held me so well on Broadway because it's wonderful and magical and an incredible experience, and also very terrifying because you can get so lost in it. And that was, definitely, that journey was a career highlight for sure. Doing the Tonys was standing in Radio City, like with the mic, doing the broadcast, directing the broadcast. I just couldn't believe that I was there, and being in that building. It's just so amazing.
Yeah,
for
fantastic.
Sure.
Yeah, amen to that. Lucy, thank you. This has been absolutely great. Thank you so much for, again, your stories and for your time. And it's been a real privilege. And I'm sure Inter Alia is going to keep going from strength to strength in the West End. And we're going to continue to have more conversations about this show and what it opens up on here as well. And you're the start of another series of a Susie Miller thing on here.
She's so amazing.
Thing on here. I've done Prima Facie a lot, but thank you. And I'd love to have you back for another one of these chats in the future. I've still got so many more things I'd love to ask you, but time will prevent me from doing so. But but until then, thank you so much, and keep doing the work that you're doing, and keep going with it and everything. If you just hang on, I'll finish the recording. We'll have a tiny debrief, then we can shoot back to life. So
great.
But in the meantime, thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This has been the Uncensored Critic podcast. I'll be back very, very, very soon. And Lucy Hind, just thank you.